You still got that Jeep on that trailer that I helped you go pick up, John?
Actually, at the moment, it's off the trailer. So if you need the trailer back anytime in the next week and a half, it's good to go. But I've got the engine and trans out, and it's ready to go back on the trailer, and I'll start ripping all the axles and suspension out.
Oh, very cool. I don't need it back right now, but
Okay.
So did you drive it down the road?
I drove it to the end of the driveway and back. Managed to get it into third gear. Worked fine. Drove around the yard to circle around and come back to park it where I was going to work on it. And all three of the gearbox bolts sheared off, and I lost steering. So it's a really good thing I didn't get it on the road and get it up to 55.
So it's a good thing that we picked it up and trailered it instead of having you try to drive it home all that distance.
Yeah. And, but we got it running.
All right.
So that was impressive. A carbureted 4.0. It was different.
Oh, that is weird.
Yeah, but pulled the engine, got the intake manifold off, some other odds and ends separated. Got a nice pile of stuff I'm keeping, and then the rest is available.
All right. Well, so available for sale.
Yes.
Okay. Pretty cool.
I'm excited.
So this is going to be part of our update for Project XJ, huh?
Yes, sir.
All right.
It's time to hit the trail, lock in those hubs, and throw it into low range. Because you are listening to Wheelin' with Keith and Johnny Orange, broadcasting from the Thin Line Off-Road Studio. They're here to talk about 4x4s, trucks, and everything to do with enjoying the great outdoors. Buckle up. Here's your hosts, Keith and Johnny Orange.
Welcome to Wheelin' with Keith and Johnny Orange. I am Johnny Orange, and sitting next to me today, Mr. Keith is having a panic attack.
I thought we would actually use that. Yeah, what the heck? Let's go with it, John.
Okay.
Yeah, no. I just got tongue-tied like crazy there for a second.
It happens.
So how is Project XJ coming along?
It's moving. I've got another pile of parts. Unfortunately, one of the pile is now gone. I bought another Jeep for the parts, and it had a nice upgraded all copper and brass radiator. So I was all excited to swap that in. That simplified part of my build. But I made the smart decision to pressure test it first, and it failed.
The radiator failed, or the hoses failed? The radiator failed.
Yeah.
I was leaking from one of the
tanks. Yeah. I put some soapy water on it, pressurized it to about 16, which is what the factory radiator cap calls.
Okay.
Yeah. It foamed bad.
Can you fix it?
I mean, I probably could, but the amount of time and money I'm going to spend to do that, not that it's crazy expensive, but I can get a new one for like $60 to $80.
Not worth messing with then. Okay.
Not really, no.
So our listeners, what we're talking about right now is John got a hold of me a little over a week ago. He had bought a 2000-ish
Jeep,
Jeep,
2000 Jeep Cherokee.
2000 Jeep Cherokee, Facebook Marketplace. Is that where you found it? And didn't run, so we went out and we picked it up, put it on my trailer. It was about greater Detroit area, but it was, 50 miles away. So went and picked it up and brought it back to John's place so he could rob a bunch of parts for his Project XJ. It had a lot of cool parts. It was lifted, had a winch bumper, winch.
It was a manual trans swap.
Yeah, it was originally an automatic Jeep, but now it had an AX-15 in it.
The fun part, so it's got an aftermarket clutch master and slave cylinder, which I may try to recycle into mine. I don't know because of the condition of the slave cylinder. Most of those have a rounded over push rod in them, not a 5.5-inch extension for a ratchet.
That's what. Hang on. That's what the
push rod.
That's
is.
what the push rod of the slave was. It had a extension for a ratchet.
5.5-inch 3/8 drive ratchet extension. I mean, it works. So
okay, all right.
I think if I use that, I'm going to probably get the actual push rod for it. But yeah.
That's crazy. So you already got the trans pulled out and everything?
Yep, trans is out. Transfer case is separated from it. It looks good. I got to clean it up a little more, but
Yeah, that's all right. So, well, there's a lot of great parts on it. You got a smoking deal on it.
Yeah.
I'm glad we trailered it instead of you trying to get it running there and driving it back.
It took a little bit. We had to drain all the old gas out, put some seafoam in it with a couple gallons of new gas, and it's carbureted. I don't know much about carburetors, but I had my dad, he gave me a hand, little tweaks on the carb, and we got it running. So it needed a lot of adjustment, way more than I had time or anything to put into to get it running properly.
All right.
And the wiring harness was pretty stripped out. It needed a lot to get going, so it just made sense to part it.
Okay, so you parted it out. That's awesome. This is your parts rig.
Yep.
You promised our listeners that you were going to give us a update as to what you did to Project XJ. I'm not counting buying a parts rig as an update to the project. So what did you get done on Project XJ this week?
I got some dust off it. That's about it right now.
John?
Well, you got to have parts to put into it. So it's going to take me a couple days to get the garage cleaned out, get everything set up to start working on it again.
Clock's ticking, buddy.
Yep. September 1st is the deadline. If it's not done by then, it's gone. So next few episodes, we should make some significant progress with that.
Okay, I'm hoping for those progress updates.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of our news segment, which we've been doing in the beginning, and it seems to work out all right. A couple things in the news right now. Last episode, I could not remember. I knew there was another death in the off-roading community. It was specifically not in the off-roading community, but Mr. Lee Iacocca had passed away.
Yes.
Our condolences to the Iacocca family. Where Lee Iacocca comes in to the world of 4x4s and off-roading, he, as far as I know, he wasn't really a 4x4 enthusiast. In fact, he has supposedly said, now I've never found, say, a recording of this, but I have read this quoted several times over the years. He supposedly said during the AMC takeover, during the Chrysler takeover of AMC back in the 80s, that he thought Jeep was a dying brand and that Jeep would not be around in the future. I'm not 100% sure if he actually said that or if it was kind of paraphrased, but I've read that several places that he was never a fan of the Jeep brand. But he did want the technology that was made in the Eagle automobile, which is the all-wheel drive viscous coupling transfer case. It was called the Ferguson formula. And he wanted that for Chrysler Motors. And a lot of automotive historians that have studied the downfall of American motors have attributed the downfall of American motors with the fact that Chrysler, led at the time by Lee Iacocca, wanted the all-wheel drive technology of the Eagle for themselves so badly. And there was a lot of things that went back and forth. And I would like to do in the future a whole episode on the AMC Eagle and, of course, Lee Iacocca's involvement with it.
That'd be cool.
So, Lee Iacocca is considered by many to be a hero that saved Chrysler through the 80s. And indeed he was that. To the AMC guys, which, of course, AMC at the time owned Jeep, he's considered to be, I don't really want to use the word villain because that's probably a little bit too harsh, but he's considered to be instrumental in the downfall of AMC. And that was essentially a business proposition. He was very much a businessman. I do have a copy of his autobiography. I haven't read that yet. I do want to read that. But it was a business deal, and he saw AMC as having a few good things that they could pick the bones of, and the rest of the company essentially being a failing company, which they essentially were by the mid-'80s.
Yeah.
On another 4x4 note, Mr. Iacocca did see a lot of promise in the Jeep Cherokee XJ platform, which had been designed by AMC.
Yeah.
And he wished to continue that into Chrysler production. So we do have, in a way, Lee Iacocca to thank for the Jeep Cherokee. continuing into Chrysler because it's the only product that did continue over besides the Wrangler. So the Wrangler and the Jeep Cherokee continued into Chrysler production, and the rest of AMC's line, the Eagle and some of the other models they had were all killed off. So, once again, very sorry to hear that Mr. Iacocca passed. He was an industry legend. He brought Chrysler out of the financial slump that they were in the 80s. And he has a rich history. We could probably do a lot more about Lee Iacocca in the future.
He brought us the Mustang and the Pinto.
Oh, that's true. Was he also the one that brought us the Firebird? No, that was John DeLorean that brought us the Firebird. But he did bring us a lot of great things. He also, in the 80s, did take and he streamlined and really pushed forward the K-Car platform. Which the K-Car platform was, of course, your Dodge Omnis and your Dodge Challengers of the time and Dodge Chargers. These were all front-wheel drive cars, but it was all called the K-Car platform. And that platform survived in one form or another all the way up through the Dodge Neon. And that was it was a streamlined process of producing automobiles. It had not been seen really in the 1980s. Unibody design was in its infancy, and the K-Car is widely considered to be the first widely successful unibody design vehicle, and that was Mr. Iacocca. He also led the introduction of the minivan with the Chrysler Town & Country and the Dodge Caravan, which of the Dodge Caravan number 1 is now in the National Registry, and they've actually displayed it when myself and producer Andrew went out through the museum to Washington, D.C. last year. They're doing, the Historical Vehicle Association is actually doing a cool preservation process, and I'd like to cover that in the future about what they're doing. But they actually had Caravan number 1 right there on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. So
if it was at a mall, did it have one of those boxes you could fill out a little questionnaire and have a chance to win it?
No,
probably not with that one.
Not with that one. Not with that one. That's pretty good. I like that. Yeah, it's like win this Caravan. No, you can win this 1984 or whatever year it was Dodge Caravan.
That'd be awesome.
No, that one's in the Historic Vehicle Registry now. It's pretty cool. But
nice.
So basically, some of his largest contributions to the automotive industry was the K-Car platform, the Dodge Caravan, but he also is the one who helped to continue the lineage of the Jeep XJ Cherokee and the Jeep Wrangler for a few years. So,
and I know that's what morphed into the ZJ Grand Cherokee too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
that's awesome.
Mr. Iacocca, sorry to hear of your passing and your family. Condolences, but that's automotive news. Any other news that you have today, John?
Not that I can think of. I mean, it's really hot out today. That's about it.
It is not that hot out.
It's like 94.
That's beautiful weather.
No.
You don't like it, huh?
No, I like 30s. It'd be great to me. Maybe the 40s if on a warm day.
Oh, okay.
I'm one of those cold weather people.
Oh, yeah, I know you are.
Yeah.
Automotive news, real quickly, or at least 4x4 news. I just want to remind our listeners again that we have the Wheels in the Woods 4x4 show coming up September 28th, 2019 in Clay Township, Michigan. You can go to the website for the Museum of Off-Road Adventure, which is themora, THEMORA.org, and you can find more information there. You can also find it through the museum's Facebook page, which is just Museum of Off-Road Adventure on Facebook. So we'd like to see you out there if you can come out there with your 4x4. So if that's it on our news, or did you have something else there?
No.
Okay, so if that's in our news, a minute ago we were talking about trailering and trailing your Jeep back. And that's going to be what we're going to talk a little bit about today.
Sounds good to me.
Trailering and at what point you decide to trailer. Now, John, you have a couple of Jeeps. You drive them yeah, you do. You drive them every day, but you don't have a tow rig and a trailer at this point.
I do not, no.
Okay. And have you thought in your mind, like, what point you are going to be at when you decide to do that. Like, in your mind, and it's different for every wheeler. Some guys love to drive their rig to the trail all the time. They live out of their Jeep or their Toyota or their Suzuki or whatever they're wheeling.
Yeah.
And if it breaks, they fix it out there and they still drive it home. But many, and probably the vast majority of hardcore 4x4 enthusiasts do trailer their rigs to the event that they're going to, whether it be a trail ride or a mud bog or whatever it is. In your mind, do you think you would ever be a guy that trailers your rig?
Eventually, when I get to a point where it's a dedicated off-road rig, I probably will start looking into those options. I still like the idea of, multi-function, multi-purpose builds. So building something that's capable of going off-road, doing these trails, go out there, survive for a long time, and come back.
And drive you home.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I've always liked the idea of building as. So when I get to a point where it's strictly an off-road rig, some 1-ton axles and lockers or something, at that point it'll probably be a trailer rig.
Especially if you get into like running, say, swamper boggers or a welded axle or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, tell you what, I think this is a good natural point for us to stop, and we will talk to you again after the break.
Sounds good. See you in a bit.
Have you heard the good news? Now there's a local paper that people just can't seem to get enough of. It's the Thumbprint News. The Thumbprint News is free and full of interesting stories that focus on what's important in our lives. Stories that touch on this area's rich history, unique places, and the diverse cultures and people. You'll be in the know when you read the Thumbprint News. Go to thumbprintnews.com and read the paper online for free today.
And we're back. Just before the break, John and I were talking. We went through the news, and then we were talking a little bit about trailering. And that's what we're going to talk about this episode. And we were talking about how, what point you decide that you're going to trailer your rig, which for many off-roaders, it's when your off-road rig gets to the point where it really isn't that friendly on the street. And that could be very aggressive tires. That could be mechanical lockers. It could be welded axles, a number of different points, hydraulic steering, or even a full tube buggy. But eventually, most off-roaders, and then of course people who enjoy four-wheelers and snowmobiles and motorcycle or dirt bikes have to trailer to the trailhead because those aren't street legal.
And it's going to be a really, really long run.
Yeah, I mean, if you got on my Honda 4-Trax and tried to drive to the mounds, I could probably see you there sometime next week.
Maybe, if you're lucky.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that, in a car, it's a 2-hour drive.
Yeah.
But, okay. So, the first thing that you really should talk about when you are talking about trailering your vehicle is even prior to purchasing, borrowing, renting a trailer, you should talk about what are you going to pull it with.
Oh, yeah.
And go ahead, John.
I was going to say, it's a big thing. I've found the truck that we have for what I need to tow doesn't work very well.
Why is that?
It's got a much lower load capacity, so I can't tow anything heavy.
And you've got an older 3/4 ton Chevy or half-ton Chevy?
1500 Chevy.
Half-ton Chevy, yeah. And so there you go. We need to talk a little bit about load capacities. We need to talk about what things are rated for. So I guess right out of the box, every vehicle that is produced in North America and even worldwide, but at least sold in North America today, has to come from the factory with a gross vehicle weight rating. But for our purposes, what's most important, because it has two numbers on there, it'll say gross, so GVWR, and that is how much you can carry in that vehicle and drive down the road. So, for instance, you buy a pickup truck, and I'm just going to throw a number out there. Let's say it has a gross vehicle weight rating of 6,500 pounds. That means that the weight of the pickup truck and the weight of the passengers along with the weight of the cargo, is rated up to 6,500 pounds. So,
decent amount.
Well, yes, but once you start doing the math on that,
Yeah.
you have to realize what the weight of the vehicle is. So let's say, and that would be a pretty light rated pickup truck. That'd be a small half-ton, maybe even a mini truck that would be at 6,500 pounds. So with the gross vehicle weight rating, and we're not talking combined yet, the gross vehicle weight rating, if you had the 6,500 pound fictional vehicle we're talking about, let's say it weighs 4,000 pounds. Now, because the vehicle you have to put in the vehicle, so now you've got 2,500 pounds to work with. Now you figure that you put two grown men that weigh 250 pounds apiece in the cab of the truck. You knock that off. That now means that you can go down the road with 2,000 pounds in the back of the truck. And I mean, that's a lot of weight, but that is really the max of what that vehicle is rated at. More importantly, though, for trailering is the gross combined vehicle weight rating. And the combined vehicle weight rating is what that vehicle is rated. Essentially, it's its tow rating.
Okay.
So what they're doing is they're saying that, okay, this vehicle has a gross combined vehicle weight rating of 18,000 pounds. So if your entire rig and your family and your luggage and your tools that you have in the back comes to 9,000 pounds, then that means that you're limited to tow about 9,000 pounds behind you. So that's important. So it's important to know how much stuff and how many people you're going to take with you on an average basis. And then it's important to know how heavy your trailer is and how heavy your rig is, or whatever you're hauling on the trailer. Because that whole combined load going down the road, if you took that across the scale, is rated to go up to a certain point. Now, it's interesting to note that we're not going to talk in this episode much about laws, because the laws for when you're talking non-commercial vehicles, you're talking private vehicles, which these are, you're taking your rig out to the trail in a private vehicle, vary state to state. And we have listeners all over the world at this point. We have listeners in Germany, California, Canada, and so even other countries are going to have different laws. In fact, I know for an instance, if you're driving through Mexico City, Mexico, it is illegal to tow a trailer for private use.
Really?
Yes, and you have to pay a fee to basically pass through the city for a private use trailer. Now, if it's commercial, you can do a different type of licensure there. But in Mexico City, Mexico, there's been a number of off-roaders that have gone down through into Mexico for different things that have gotten large tickets, fines for going through Mexico City, Mexico with a private trailer.
Jeez.
Just an instance out there.
So I think the best of that is to sum it up, research where you're going for laws before you go, kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're going to give you some tips that are good, safe practices for your own rig that work in all 50 states.
Nice.
But of course, always look at the laws and regulations of the place you live, because they are different from state to state.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to give you an example. In the state of Michigan, where we live, we were one of the first states to require brakes on every axle on trailers over 1,500 pounds. Many states still don't require that.
Yeah.
But many states do now as well. But we were the first to do that way back in the day. And so if you had a homemade, Jim Bob type trailer that was built on a farm that maybe weighed 4,000 or 5,000 pounds, or maybe even you were just hauling 4,000 or 5,000 pounds, and you had no brakes on that trailer, and you were going down the road in Michigan, that was actually technically illegal, and you could get nabbed for that.
Interesting.
So, back to the tow rig. John, what do you think classifies as a tow rig? What's a good idea? What should someone, and I'm not talking about brand here, but how should someone pick a tow rig?
Well, I know that the first and the biggest decision that goes into that is what else you're going to use it for. If you're using a lot of daily driving, you're not going to be towing as often. You can get away with a lighter duty. But if you're going to be towing a lot, you're going to want something more heavy duty like a diesel.
Exactly. So, what John's saying there is, so if your tow rig is going to double duty as your daily driver / family vehicle, you may choose a tow rig, and in that matter, you also need to say, how often am I going to tow with this?
Yeah.
So if you're only going to tow for 1 or 2 trips a year, then something that is just barely rated to tow what you want to tow is probably going to be just fine.
Yeah.
I have a friend that tows a very heavy Jeep, built Jeep on 1-ton axles on a fairly heavy trailer behind the short wheelbase GMC Yukon.
I think I know who that is.
Yeah, or he used to. I think he actually has a dedicated tow rig now. But
nice.
It was marginal, but it had plenty of power, and it did the job. Now, if he was towing every month to events, then he said, I would buy a diesel or I would buy whatever, but he was only going a couple times a year.
Yeah.
And so that's something to think about, definitely. But you still want to think about, the usage of the vehicle. Can it be a cross use? Like, so I've got a big family. So for me to use or buy a regular cab or even a crew cab pickup truck doesn't really make a lot of sense. I've got a Ford Excursion. I can put 8 people in it, and I can still tow with it. So that's really, you got to look at your own needs. But, the family minivan is probably not going to be a good tow rig.
Chances are no. But it'd be funny to see that.
Most front-wheel drive vehicles have a max tow rating between 2,000 and 3,000 pounds.
Yeah.
So towing with a front-wheel drive vehicle is probably going to be out of the picture.
Yeah. I've done it.
I have too.
We weren't hauling a vehicle. When my sister came back from school, my dad and I drove down. We borrowed his boss's minivan. It was a Chrysler Dodge something or other minivan. And we hooked the trailer up to it, drove that down to Ohio, and loaded everything up and brought her back. That was an interesting trip.
So were you overloaded, do you think?
I don't think we were. I think we were pretty well within the tow specs of it. It had, what do they call it, a loaded leveling. It had like 2 torsion bars that we put on it.
Okay, so it had a load leveling kit that go on the side of the tongue there.
Yep, I have never seen that before, so that was very new to me.
Well, we're actually kind of jumping forward, but let's talk about that for just a second. People out there, if you're not familiar with a load leveler is a device that bolts onto the tongue of your trailer, and you actually need a special hitch to use a load leveler, so it doesn't work with a standard hitch. So you need to have kind of a whole package here: load leveling hitch, load leveling bar mounts on the tongue of the trailer. You put tension on these bars, and it essentially raises the center of gravity. I don't fully understand the geometry behind how they work, but it essentially raises the center of gravity at the hitch point itself, and it makes for a more stable towing experience. And there are also additionally sway bars you can buy that will mount onto that same kit.
Interesting.
To keep from swaying back and forth while you're going down the road. But as a disclaimer there, buying a load leveler and a load leveling hitch is still not a substitute for having a proper tow rig.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I've seen that before. I've seen guys try to put a low leveler on, say, a Ford Ranger and then tow 15,000 pounds down the road. Now, I'm not saying that it won't tow it for short distances, but it's not an inherently safe combination.
Yeah, you do a lot of damage over time.
Exactly. Well, and if you had to stop, you have to look at braking capacity. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You have to look at the braking capacity.
Yeah.
So with a tow rig, basically you want to find out what the towing capacity of it is. This day and age is very easy to Google any vehicle and say, what is the towing capacity of this vehicle?
Yeah.
And so now we talk about trailers and what you're towing. So if you're towing one snowmobile down the road on a regular basis on a lightweight aluminum trailer, and the whole combination only weighs, let's say 1,500 pounds, the family minivan can do that just fine.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're putting a fully built JK 4-door on 1-ton axles and 42-inch tires onto a trailer and hauling it down the road,
probably not a good idea.
Exactly. The minivan's no longer work.
Yeah.
So a lot of folks, surprisingly, don't even know the weight of their vehicle. Now, you can go to scales at truck stops, and you can drive over, and a lot of them are free. Some of them you have to pay a couple dollars for. That is a great way of figuring out the exact weight of your vehicle.
Yeah.
Because, if you have, I'm going to use that same one example. If you've got a built JK Wrangler 4-door, if you go online and you look up what the weight of a JK Wrangler 4-door is, it might tell you, so many thousands of pounds. I'm just going to throw a number out there. It's probably wrong. Let's say it says it's 4,800 pounds. That doesn't mean that after you've taken out the factory axles and put it in 1-ton axles and winch bumpers and a winch and rock guards and all sorts of other stuff, that vehicle still weighs 4,800 pounds.
Yeah.
That vehicle might weigh 6,500 pounds now.
Yeah.
So it's very important to know what the weight of the vehicle is.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So now, once you know the weight of your vehicle, you need to figure out what you can use for a trailer. If you're going to borrow a trailer from a friend, or if you're going to buy a trailer, what is the weight of that trailer? Now, a lot of pull behind, a lot of times they call them skid steer trailers. People use them for towing their rigs a lot, or even just car hauler trailers, weigh in that neighborhood of 1,400 to maybe 2,500 pounds. So you find out what the weight of the trailer is that you have or you're looking at. You put the two together. Now you go back to saying, okay, I'm going to shop for a tow rig. And it's kind of a package deal. Obviously, you might not have a trailer for towing your off-road rig if you don't have a tow vehicle yet. Most people buy the tow vehicle first.
Yeah.
So back to that, like I said, look for something with the tow rating that you think you're going to need, maybe a little bit more. We can get into an episode in the future about gas versus diesel, whether or not your tow rig needs to have four-wheel drive. Whether or not your tow rig needs to be a semi-truck if you're towing a monster truck down the road.
It sounds like a pretty good weekend, though.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, if you're to that point, you're pretty hardcore.
Oh, yeah.
So, those are all things to think about. And so, moving on to the next part of it would be, so you figured out your tow rig, and, everybody's going to have their own decision. They're going to say, oh, I'm a Dodge guy, or I'm a Ford guy, a Chevy guy, I'm a Toyota guy, Nissan. But, and then some of them are going to say, I want a diesel or I want a gas.
Yeah.
Really, in all honesty, that's just going to depend on your personal preference. It's going to depend on the miles per gallon that you reasonably want to spend. And after that, it just goes by tow rating. The tow rating, when it's given by the federal government, it tells you, how much this vehicle is going to reasonably be able to tow. So some states you're not even based by the tow rating.
Yeah.
But it is good to still try to keep into those parameters.
That works.
So why don't we take a quick break, John? And when we come back, we need to talk about trailer selection and how to safely tie down your equipment.
Sounds good. See you in a bit.
Hey, it sounds like it's time to swap out that old engine for something better, John.
Yeah, man, but I have so much into my trans and transfer case setup already. I don't want to change those too.
Sounds like you need to call Quick Draw Brand Adapters. They specialize in conversion bell housings for nearly all diesel and gasoline engines, including the new 2.8R Cummins.
I like weird engines up. I want something different.
Then you definitely need to visit QuickDrawBrand.com today. They have those hard-to-find parts. They also have used diesel engines available. You can call them at 513-446-9654.
Cool, I'll do that. See what they have. Thanks.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm Keith Kodet of Thin Line Off-Road, and sitting across from me is Johnny Orange.
Of Johnny Orange.
Of Johnny Orange. I like that. I'm Johnny Orange of Johnny Orange.
Or we should just have it, I'm Johnny Orange of Orange. What's funnier?
I don't know, man. So before the break, we were talking about trailers, tow rigs, and then we moved on. We said we're going to talk about trailers now. And
I like pop-ups.
You like pop-up
simple,
trailers?
Yeah, you pull up and then you just it pops up and you're ready to go.
Can you fit your Jeep in a pop-up trailer?
No.
Okay. You keep borrowing my trailer, so I'm assuming you need to eventually...
One time.
Oh, one time. Okay. I think it's been more than once, hasn't it?
Well, when we
I've told the XJ,
when we
haven't I?
trailered Project XJ home, yeah.
Okay.
So technically twice, I guess.
All right.
But that was a different trailer, in all fairness.
So, before the break, we were also talking about, choosing a GVW. Trailers have the same thing. Trailers they don't have a gross combined vehicle weight rating. They just have a gross vehicle weight rating. And that should be on the tongue if it is an actual trailer that's been produced by a trailer manufacturer. If it's a homemade deal, all bets are off, and you have to go by tire rating and axle rating. But if it's a trailer that's been produced, as most people don't just make their own tow rig trailer, although some do, of course. But if you're buying a trailer, most people are going to be looking at something that has at least a 7,000 pound tow rating. But keep in mind, once again, that is a combined tow rating with the weight of the trailer. So if the trailer itself that you buy weighs 1,800 pounds and it has a 7,000 pound tow rating, now you're done. What's the math on that?
You said 7,000?
Yeah, so it weighs 7,000, or it's a 7,000 pound tow rating, and the trailer weighs 1,800 pounds. That only gives
5,200.
Yeah, that gives you 5,200 pounds of working capacity, which for many people with a smaller off-road rig, a Suzuki Samurai, a small Wrangler, it's plenty. And but if you're going to run a heavier rig, then now you're going to be looking at trailers with a heavier gross vehicle weight rating, maybe all the way up to 10 or even 12,000 pounds. Now, it is interesting to note, though, that many states, Michigan is not one of them, but many states require commercial plates on a trailer that's over 10,000 pound weight rating. So a lot of states will make a trailer that has 12,000 pound axles under it, but they derate it to 9,900 pounds or something like that. And that one of the first trailers I bought brand new was exactly that. It was a 12,000 pound trailer made out of Kentucky at a company down there, but it had been derated to just under 10,000 pounds. Once again, check your local laws, because when you're driving through various states, certain states are going to go by the tag on the tongue. Other states are going to go by the type of axles you have. And, if you look at a trailer, the easiest way to differentiate between a lighter duty and a heavier duty trailer is the number of lugs that are holding on the wheels. So your light duty trailers are going to be 4 lug or 5 lug. Your slightly heavier duty trailers, really where you're starting to get into hauling vehicles on top of the trailer, are going to either be 5 lug or more likely 6 lug trailers. And each one of these lugs axles are going to have different weight ratings. 6 lug axles typically are about 4,000 pound per axle. So if you have 2 axles under the trailer, you've got an 8,000 pound trailer.
Nice.
If you have 8 lugs, that is usually going to be at the low end 4,500 pounds. At the higher end, depending on the exact axle assembly you have, maybe 6,000 pounds or even 7,000 pounds.
Nice.
So if you're hauling like a big heavy buggy on 1 ton, you might want to look at an 8 lug axle trailer. But the question, of course, remains, now, John, have you ever, I know you're out at the farm in Memphis, have you ever towed with a triple axle trailer?
I don't remember off the top of my head. Friend had a boat that we did, yes.
Did you do long at distance on the triple axle?
Not really. I don't think it was any more than maybe 10, 15 miles, if that, and that's probably a stretch.
Okay, so you don't necessarily know the pros and cons then of a triple axle trailer.
Nope.
Okay.
Other than tires, it'd probably be more expensive.
Well, there's that. And really the only pro of a triple axle trailer is going to be that you're going to have a heavier load capacity. The cons are you tend to scrub the tires on the front axle and the rear axle more when you're turning, because of course the trailer axles don't steer.
Yeah.
And you wear out trailer tires a lot faster.
Makes sense.
So most off-roaders, if you notice them, if you go to any parking lot outside an off-road area such as the Mounds or Bundy Hill or Silver Lake,
yeah,
you're going to see 2 axle trailers. 1 axle trailers unless you're running a very, very light snowmobile or a motorcycle, are not adequate for towing your off-road rigs. You need a dual axle trailer. So, you know, do the research and the laws in your state, and then after that, you're going to want to, you know, pick your trailer that you're going to do, whether you buy it used or you buy it new, and then you're going to want to look at your options. Now, the first most important option, what do you think the most important option is for your trailer, John?
I mean, I would assume the weight.
Well, the weight, that is very important. Well, okay, so what would be the second most important one?
Probably the material.
I think we're going in a different direction.
Obviously, I'm new to this.
That it fits your vehicle.
That would make sense.
So, yeah, exactly. So, not that, or it fits everything you're planning on towing.
Yeah.
So, let's say, for example, that you've got an old farm truck on your farm, and it's a crew cab long bed pickup truck, and it breaks down all the time, and you're always hauling it down to the mechanic in town to fix, and you want to be able to do that yourself instead of paying $100, $200 towing bill every single time.
Yeah.
Then you need to measure the wheelbase of that truck and determine then that the trailer you buy will, you know, that truck will fit on that trailer.
Makes sense.
So, you know, sure, if you've got a short wheelbase vehicle like a Suzuki Samurai or a Tracker or maybe an old CJ5 or a flat fender Jeep, you can get away with a 12 or a 14-foot trailer.
Yeah.
You're not going to fit anything else on it, though. And you also need to think about like upgrades for the future. So if you're thinking in the back of your mind that, oh, you know what, maybe next year I'm going to buy one of those new JL pickups. You know, go look at the wheelbase, look at the length, and pick a trailer that's long enough to suit your needs and your intended needs that you can foresee in the next couple of years.
It goes without saying you'd want to be considerate of the width of that too then.
Exactly. So the width of that. And you've got different options at that point as to whether you are going with a deck that goes between the fenders or a deck that goes over the top of the fenders. And, you know, if you have a deck that is over the top of the fenders, you need longer ramps to get up onto it, and the deck sits higher. The biggest disadvantage is many states limit deck over private trailers to 45 miles per hour. So, not a good idea if you are going to...
long haul.
Long haul. So, typically, you're going to be looking at a trailer that you can drive up and you can drive between the fenders, strap down your vehicle, and go on your long haul.
Makes sense.
So, then your options, of course, are... well, you had mentioned material type, right? So, what type of materials do you think would be beneficial for a trailer?
I
or
mean,
pros and cons?
Well, steel and aluminum being the most obvious.
Steel and aluminum are pretty much the only ones that you're making. You're not going to make, you know, way, way, way back in the day when the sandrails became popular and some of the early hot rod guys that started trailering their cars to car shows would make a trailer out of steel pipe. And that's not a good idea. You know, these days, these are C-channel or rectangular channel frames, very heavy duty. So no need to get into all the history of the early trailers.
Yeah.
But, you know, your modern trailers are pretty much built the same, with the exception of some are built out of steel, some are built out of aluminum. Aluminum's more... Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, are we talking like the entire construction or the predominant frame?
It's typically going to be the frame because I'm not aware of any aluminum axled vehicles. So, or aluminum axled trailers.
Well, I mean, as far as the decking and the framing.
Okay, and that actually, there are variations.
Oh, okay.
Some trailers are all aluminum. Some of them have an aluminum deck over a steel frame.
Okay.
Some have a wood deck over a, you know, whatever steel or aluminum frame.
That's what predominantly what I've seen are the steel frames and then the wood decking over that.
That's going to be usually your cheapest option, and it's actually one of your best options in many minds because you can nail things down. If you need to lay on the deck of the trailer to work on the vehicle in the hot sun, wood is more friendly than laying on steel.
Oh, yeah. And it's a lot easier to replace and repair, I know, too.
It is.
We've had, so we hauled some equipment last summer, and we actually had a piece break through the deck while we were going up I-80 in Chicago.
And you can cut that piece out. You can replace it.
That's what we had to do to repair it. We did a patch. We got home, and then he had to replace a couple decking boards on the trailer.
That's definitely a benefit of going to a wood deck trailer. And like we said, most folks do go with that, but there's nothing wrong with going to a steel deck trailer.
I've used the very first vehicle I ever scrapped out was hauled on a steel deck trailer.
Okay. So, different options out there. You have to kind of think about what's going to be best for you.
Yeah.
Speaking of trailer options, just briefly touching some interesting options some options you may want to consider are multiple tie-down points instead of just having, say, one at each corner.
Yeah.
If you can buy a brand new one and get 8 or 10 tie-down points, that's going to be a benefit because you haul different things. Tie-down points they can either be loops built into the deck, on the side of the trailer, and different ways of doing it, but tie-down points are important. Ramp length, that is huge. Or in style ramps, do you want a fold-up ramp? If you're going to go with the fold-up ramp, the bumper of your vehicle, the rear bumper of your vehicle can't stick out past the end of the trailer. Mm-hmm. But if you are going to go with a slide-in ramp, it could.
Yeah.
So if you're in a space consideration, buying a 16-foot trailer and pulling your rig up there and your bumper sticks a little bit off the back, that's okay as long as you have slide-in ramps.
Yeah.
So that's something to look at. A friend of mine just bought a brand new trailer from a pretty big trailer manufacturer, spent a lot of money, did a lot of custom stuff to it, gets the thing home, pulls the ramps out, and they're like 3 feet long. The length of the ramps are so short that he cannot even pull a regular non-lifted 4x4 onto the trailer.
Wow. That's a bummer.
He was pretty upset about that.
I understand.
I think they've rectified the situation since.
That's good.
But those types of things can happen. So look at ramp length. Other things, if you're going to be dragging a lot of disabled vehicles on there, putting even just a cheap winch on the front of it.
That's like what yours has.
Yeah, I've got one of those Harbor Freight winches on the front of it, and it works great for hauling things up. And a battery and a toolbox for straps.
Yeah.
So, these are all options. You can also choose, if you're getting a steel trailer, whether you're going to go with painted or powder coated. And there are really benefits and drawbacks to both. Paint scratches easier, but paint's patchable easier. If you have powder coating and you nick off part of the powder coating, it's going to rust there if you don't patch it in. So a lot of people,
fenders that were powder coated and the paint's gone. I really need to get those painted, actually.
Fenders on a trailer?
No, on a Jeep.
Powder coated? Oh, that's cool. Oh, yeah. The tube fenders you have.
Yeah. Okay. That the price was right, but the long-term survivability is not there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, that's something to consider as well. Also, with the trailer, you need to make sure, it pretty much goes without saying, and I'm not 100% sure if it's legal, if it's law in all 50 states at this point, but having brakes on every axle is the law in most states.
Yeah.
So some trailer manufacturers as late as 5 years ago were still producing trailers that only had brakes on one axle. That in the state of Michigan, that's not legal to haul a vehicle on a trailer that only has brakes on one axle. Speaking of which, your tow rig is going to need to have a brake controller, and there's many different ways of doing that. Maybe we could do a whole episode on brake controller picking sometime.
That works.
But you got to have a brake controller that then controls the brakes on the trailer. Obviously, you need to have a little bit of training period if you're not familiar with driving with a trailer, going out to a parking lot, having a friend that does a lot of trailer backing up, showing you how to drive with a trailer.
Yeah, that takes some practice. I've been trying for years, and it just doesn't click for me.
Really?
I can't back a trailer up to save my life.
Well, you turn opposite of the way.
Yeah, I know it's supposed to be small adjustments. I always go way over, and I just haven't learned to dial it in yet. One day I'll get it.
That's a big thing. You can't be impatient backing in a trailer. You just, like you said, small adjustments, like you were just saying, and that's ideal. Really, the last thing to talk about with tying down or using a trailer as a tow rig is tying down your rig and how to properly do it. There's a lot of other things that we could kind of like nick on, but the most important thing is getting your rig up there, and then how do you secure it to the trailer?
Yeah.
So you and I just moved that Cherokee the other day, and I kind of made fun of you because I went around the back and I was trying to figure out what you were doing.
Yeah, I thought I had the right idea, but I apparently didn't.
It
worked.
Your heart was in the right place, and it worked
Yeah.
out all right because we decided to run with it. But in most states, it is law to have 2 tie-down points front and 2 tie-down points rear. With that being said, though, it is those tie-down points need to be on what's called unsprung weight, which is on the axles, on the lower suspension of the vehicle, if it's an IFS or IRS vehicle, or even, as you'll see many car carriers do, run one of those strap loop systems that goes over the whole tire, and then
That's what my buddy does with his sandrail.
that's very popular with sandrails, and they take it up to Silver Lake and places like that.
Yeah.
So those are different ways of doing it. You should need to check with your state laws of the state that you're in as to how to properly secure it down.
Yeah.
It is always a good idea, even if you can legally go with 1 tie down in the front and 1 in the rear. It's always a good idea to have the backup as in having the 2.
Speaking of safety, this might be backing up a little bit, but making sure you have a spare tire.
A
At
spare
least
tire,
one.
a spare tire on your trailer,
Yeah.
and your safety chains need to be crossed.
Yes.
I've been pulled over twice for that when I was a younger
geez.
man pulling a boat. And they have to be crossed, and the reason for that is if there's a hitch failure, theoretically,
stabilize
it will drop down into a cradle of an X and
Yeah.
allow you to pull over the vehicle.
Makes sense.
And I've actually been in a vehicle where that happened once.
Oh, that's
It was
scary.
a company I was working for. We had an aluminum frame trailer that snapped
Ha!
on a rough road, and it cradled down in, and
Wow.
it worked as it was supposed to.
That's cool.
That is a disadvantage of aluminum frame trailers as well. In the early days, aluminum frame trailers are kind of a new thing in the last 15 or 20 years, and some of the manufacturers are still kind of getting the bugs worked out. That company I was working for at the time, it had a 6-inch C-channel frame underneath it, and it was discovered that even though we had not overloaded the trailer, and they even weighed it with all the gear in it that it was supposed to have in it, that 6-inch C-channel aluminum was just not enough for the size of that trailer, and it
Jeez.
really should have been 8 or 10 inch.
Wow.
So they did fix it, and it's good now.
That's
But
good.
So those are all things.
Yeah.
We could probably keep going on here. We do need to mention, like I said, unsprung weight, and then your tie-down points need to be 2 forward, 2 rear. Not strapping it over the hood, not over the roof of the vehicle. But check with your local regulations on that. And you all right there, John?
Yeah, shoulder's bugging me a little
Shoulders
bit.
bugging you?
Yeah.
So, we could probably go on a lot of other things with trailering, but that kind of gives you a tidbit of some of the hot points of what you need to do with trailering.
Yeah.
John, where would you recommend them to go if they have more questions for us or for the general public about trailering or picking a tow rig?
I mean, you could always contact us here at Wheelin' Radio if you have specific questions on things. And, as always, if we don't know the answer, we'll find out.
Exactly.
And that and the 4x4 Talk page on
That's
Facebook.
a great place to put those questions right there. You can throw them up on 4x4 Talk. There's other people that are enthusiasts that can chime in. John or myself might chime in as well. Quite knowledgeable ourselves on proper trailering techniques. So that would be a really good place to put those. Put those types of questions, join 4x4 Talk. By the way, if you're listening and you haven't joined 4x4 Talk yet, we would recommend it. There will be some questions they'll ask you when you go to join for your email. You do not have to give us your email, but if you'd like to, we'll put it into our archives for offering special discounts and things like that in the future. We've been doing our weekly trivia prizes. We've had some winners. We've had some where nobody's responded to. Do you want to do one this week, John?
I think we can take a break for a week, maybe. Let the last one ride for another week. See if anybody gets it.
I like that idea because we had asked that question. And we'll say the same question again. You want to do that, or do you want to just make them listen to the last episode?
I think we should make them listen to it.
Okay, that's what we're going to do. We're giving away 4-wheel and decals, so it's really easy. It's a pretty easy question about some off-road equipment. You need to listen to episode 13, and episode 13 is going to have that trivia question in it, and you can go ahead. We're going to extend that for a week, and the first 4 correct answers, there were 2 possible answers for the same question. I'm not going to give away what the question is. You got to go back to 13. And but 2 possible answers. If you get the first 4 people get it right, we're going to mail you a decal.
And we did that on the 4x4 Talk page, if I remember correctly, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's already up on the 4x4 Talk page. So, anything else you want to add, John?
Nothing I can think of at the time or at the moment.
Do your thing.
Thanks for listening, and have a good one, everybody.